Hello, and welcome to a brief episode of Tea Time with Eddie. I'm out here in the parkway, as I usually am right now. There is a bit of a rainfall coming down, so I don't have my little bit more stationary, higher definition camera equipment. But I had just found this little nook and cranny here. Basically, it's a fallen log with a bunch of other smaller logs propped up against it to produce an adequate shelter. I feel like there's a group of people that come out here and produce sort of like pretty cool teepee-like structures. There was one back there that has been standing for some years now that eventually the entrance did collapse sometime this year. So maybe they're actually building this one as a slight bit of a replacement. Anywho, so what I would like to talk about today is something that sort of came to mind to me as I was walking here. And there's actually a troop of deer not too far back, I would say about 50 yards. 50 yards north of here. And it's maybe about 8 or 9 deer just sort of like standing around. And as I was walking past them, I noticed that it was important to sort of like check my particular like mental state as doing so. And this is something in general that I have been noticing over the past couple years, especially that I have been coming to this parkway. And if my mind is in a particular state, which does translate into the particular body language that I am exhibiting, if it is in this particular state, I notice the deer become somewhat excited and they run away. And so what is required instead is to be kind of like, I feel, walking with the right kind of motivation. That's how I see it, at least. Walking with the right kind of motivation and having that sort of motivation translate into my body language. And as a result of that, they don't necessarily become very excited. They pay attention to me. Every time I turn to the side to look at them, I see them looking directly at me. They're waiting for the possibility, for the need for them to run off, but they don't run off, essentially. And I suppose, obviously, you could have, just an understanding of the right kind of body language to do without necessarily having like a higher motivation to exhibit this body language. But I feel it is actually a potential exercise in mind training. And so, what exactly is this motivation to have within the mind, and then have that motivation translate into body language to not spook the deer while walking past them? And to summarize, generally speaking, what that would entail, I feel would be not having how should I put it? Not clinging to the inherent existence of appearance. That, I believe, would be having a motivation to not cling to the inherent existence of appearance, would be the kind of yoga that I would adopt to walk among the deer without causing an excitable situation. And so, what exactly is this? Well, basically, it is having a feeling, I suppose you could say, let's say within the context of walking in the woods, having a feeling that while you're out there, you're trying to like accomplish something in particular, like accomplish, like, I don't know, like, I would like to, walk in the woods for this set period of time for this particular distance. And the reason why I'm doing this is for this reason. Or while you're out in the woods, you are dwelling upon, various aspects of your life. And you're thinking about these various aspects of your life as if they have some kind of inherent reality. And so as a result, you are quantifying these particular objects within your life, whatever they may be, as good or bad. And you are trying to sort of manipulate these things into a particular context to benefit yourself. And, so basically what rather is better to adopt is to simply not necessarily like push away that which comes naturally, that which arises in your mind. What's better to adopt, though, is the allowance for all of the things that naturally arise within your mind to transpire, but to also not have a particular like objective or aim in how they should be quantified when they arise. Not have that little extra step. And if you do this, then each and every single step you take in the path that you are making, there is more of a just like abiding with an appearance and understanding its transience and allowing that to happen. And when this happens, when you do this, when you have this particular motivation, when you have this particular yoga, the deer generally don't get as riled up. Now, like I said, you could have, of course, a contrived controlling of your body language, because if you with your human intelligence, the limit, there is you have an extensive capability to use your intelligence for the manipulation of your environment around you, and that includes your body. And you could obviously adopt a certain body language that wouldn't necessarily excite the deer. But if you're just doing, if that's like your only aim, to use your intelligence for that, that would just contribute to a certain feeling of ego, a certain feeling of developing like a stronger sense of self that is separate from the world around you. And so it's better to have that proper body language, but have it stem from the pure motivation of wishing to sort of like, let go of feeling this inherent existence of reality. And that's one of the exercises in general that is fun to adopt, in particularly the forest, which is pretty cool. It's pretty cool the extent of which I involve myself within forested surroundings in this world. There's ample enough, ample enough forested areas for the seasoning of my mind in this world. More so than in the past. I think when I was younger, there was sort of a sense of wishing for things to be slightly older, for the forest to be older, the forest to be more vast. And I don't necessarily, I do really enjoy the idea of like a vaster, more old growth forest and things of that nature. And the idea of spending my days in forested regions is nothing wrong with that at all. But it's rather nice how it's working out now too, because I do feel like the root kind of focuses to have are occurring. And that is and these focuses are aimed towards the training of the mind. Yeah. And so the yoga to adopt in forested areas in general, and the opportunity to sort of see the effect of these yogas through the reaction of the deer around me, which actually I can see right now. There are two deer looking at me. There's no way this camera quality would be able to pick that up, though. But they certainly are looking at me. One of them they both look rather healthy and young. Anyways, the yoga to adopt while walking within forest regions is sort of like letting go of this inherent existence of reality and seeing each and every single one of your steps as the allowance for a phenomena to transpire. And when you do come across troops of deer, do not necessarily act in a way that causes an exceptional level of excitement. Now, obviously, the volume of my voice right now is something they could easily pick up, but they're not necessarily like really acting as if they need to respond in particular by running away, especially. So yeah, it seems about the right kind of level. I'm not necessarily interested in, coming forth where the deer are like, laying in my lap and there's rainbows coming around and stuff. If such situations do have it be that is the most helpful thing to happen, then so be it. But otherwise, it's, just fine how it is at the moment too. Anyways, this has been a little bit of a briefer episode, but I think rather appropriate on this kind of cold, rainy day where my inner heat is still strong. And thank you very much for joining me for another episode of Tea Time with Eddie.